Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Forces Pension Society Hot Topics webinar on Pen Form 1. My name's Richard Sanders. I'm one of the pension consultants with the Forces Pension Society, and I'll be moderating this presentation today. But the presenter is Andy Keane. He's also one of the pension consultants, and he'll be taking you through this whole presentation. What I'd kindly ask of you, please, can you please make sure that your microphones are off at all time? If you have any questions later on and we go for open mic, we'll let you know. But please type any questions that you have in the chat facility, and whilst I'm moderating, I will try to answer those questions as the presentation is ongoing. Thank you for joining, and I'll hand you over to Andy. Andy?
Okay, thanks, Richard. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. As you can see, we've got a slide up here just asking you to not replicate any of the slides. We're only going to be going through the Pen Form 1, but nonetheless, the information that's detailed on that form can be updated in the future. So if you're going to replicate any of the slides and then share it with other people that aren't perhaps here today, then that information might become out of date and not be useful to them. So if you please just refrain from copying any of the slides. Okay, like Richard said, I'm Andy Keane, one of the pension consultants at the AFPS. I can see some people are having a couple of technical issues about not being able to see the slides. We quite often see that refreshing the browser works for that, or leaving and rejoining the meeting, as Richard just suggested. Okay, so the Pen Form 1 is obviously you're all in service and you're all members of the FPS. So the Pen Form 1 is what you have to fill out before you leave the armed forces in order to apply for your pension benefits. So the purpose of it is to apply for your pension and or EDP benefits. On this Pen Form 1, you'll make your remedy election choice for the McLeod remedy, obviously if you're eligible. You will be able to articulate your commutation options, depending if you've got any or not. You'll be able to choose whether or not to allocate a portion of your pension if that's an option available to you. If you're going to be receiving your 15 pension at the point of discharge, you can choose to postpone it until a later date. Then there's an option of recycling your tax-free lump sums, and you'll have to declare that on the Pen Form 1 if that's your intent. And you will need to list any other pension accruals. And I'll go into those all in more detail in a little while. Okay, so we get loads and loads of questions about the Pen Form 1, and people have lots of concerns about when they should be submitting it. So the main thing that you need to know is it must be submitted before your final day in service in all circumstances. Pardon me. If you don't submit it before you leave, then you won't get any pension benefits because you won't have applied to receive any. So it must be submitted before you leave. There's no particular cut-off point when you have to do it 3 months, 6 months, 9 months before. You can only do it up to 9 months before, but it's quite often the case that people need to do it closer to their discharge date after they've received their forecast or RSS, the remediable service statement, which you will get if you're leaving with immediate pension benefits and are eligible for the McLeod remedy. So what will happen is if you don't do it within a few weeks of leaving, you'll probably get a letter off Veterans UK urging you to do it. You'll probably get people in your chain of command or certainly your HR departments encouraging you to do it as soon as possible. If you can try and resist that pressure until you've received your forecast or RSS from Veterans UK, then that will be preferable. It can cause issues if you decide to fill it out now and then need to go and amend it later. But bottom line is it has to be done before you leave. Now, if you haven't received your RSS or your forecast about 3 or 4 weeks before you leave, that for me would be the last safe possible moment. In theory, you could do it right on the last day of your service, but I firmly do not recommend doing that. The Pen Form 1 will be processed after you've left because the calculations are going to be based on the prevailing circumstances on the final day of service. But I would say get it in at least 3 or 4 weeks before discharge in all circumstances. Okay, so how do you submit the Pen Form 1? Well, there's 2 ways of doing it. You can either do it through JPA or you can use the PDF version, which is on the gov.uk website. If you simply Google Armed Forces Pensions, it comes up with the home page for the Armed Forces Pension page, and then in there's a section called Veterans UK Forms, and there's a list of forms available for use, and one of them is the pension application form. Now, if you're going to be using that PDF version on the gov.uk site, make sure you access it as I've just described. If you're using an old link or a previous version of the form, it might not have the options that are required on it, so you must use the latest version, and I'll show you what that is now. Okay, so this is the latest version of the form, and you can see there the date at the bottom. This latest one was July 2024. So if it doesn't have that on the bottom and it has previous ones, then don't use it. So the first part of the form, and we're going to be focusing here on the PDF version because we don't have access to JPA, and I dare say most of you will do this on JPA, but submitting it through either means has exactly the same effect. It will apply for your pension benefits. Pardon me. So this first page that you'll see on the PDF version just has all your personal details on it, basically. So that's pretty self-explanatory. Now, there are 4 boxes here, which you will need to fill out one of them indicating why you're leaving. So there's end of engagement, early release, medical, or redundancy. So redundancy isn't a thing anymore, as far as I'm aware, but the other 3 will be applicable to you. So if you're leaving at the end of your contract, then you click end of engagement. If you're leaving sooner than that, having PVR'd or submitted your notice to terminate, then you'll tick that one. And if you've been medically discharged, then you'll tick that one. So make sure all your details are correct in here, okay? On JPA, if you're using the JPA version, these should be automatically populated, but you will need to put your phone numbers in because they won't be, but all the other stuff should be automatically populated. Okay, so part B, and this is again the PDF version. Here you are telling the pension scheme administrator whether or not you're entitled to any immediate pension benefits. Now, pension benefits are determined or defined as either pension and/or EDP benefits. If you're leaving and you're only going to be receiving the resettlement grant, having completed 12 years of service but less than the EDP or the immediate pension point, then you would tick this box to say you're not entitled to any immediate benefits. The same box needs to be ticked if you are leaving under a medical discharge and you're only going to be receiving a tier 1 lump sum from either and/or the AFPS 05 and the AFPS 15. If you're medically discharged and you're going to be getting a 75 pension and a tier 1 lump sum from the 15, for example, then you'll need to tick this box. This box needs to be ticked if you're only going to receive a tier 1 lump sum from either the 05 and/or the 15 scheme. Hope that's clear. If you're going to be receiving pension and/or EDP, whether it's medical or regular discharge, then you'll need to tick this box and then go on to the next part. This is really simple. If you're just getting a resettlement grant or a tier 1 lump sum, you tick this and then you go to the end of the form and then you sign the declaration, and that's that. But if you're getting immediate pension and/or EDP, then it's a bit more complicated. So you tick that box and then go on to part C. Okay, so part C is talking about the AFPS 15 remedy or the McLeod remedy. So there's 4 options here, and there's a bit of text up here, which just explains about the remedy, if you're eligible or not. But you should, if you're filling out the Pen Form 1, know that by now, and you should have your RSS. So there's 4 options here. First one is I am not in scope for the 15 remedy. Now, for lots of people, that might be the case if you're leaving after doing just a few years, and you can see the eligibility for the McLeod remedy up there. You need to have been in service on or before the 31st of March and on or after the 1st of April 2015. And if you had a break in service at any point, it needs to have been 5 years or less. So if you don't fit that category, then you say I'm not in scope for the remedy. Now, option B is for those of you who are being medically discharged. So if you've been given your forecast or RSS and you've been told you're getting a certain tier level award and you're not happy with that and you want to appeal it, then you will need to tick this box here. The third box is for those who are in scope for the remedy, but they haven't received their RSS yet. Now, like I said on the first slide, it's preferable to wait for that RSS to come before you fill out this form. But if you're getting to the point where you think, actually, I'm out in 3 or 4 weeks, I really need to get this form in, and I still haven't received my RSS, then you need to tick this box. Similarly, this box needs to be ticked if you've received the RSS, but you're not ready to make your decision yet. If that happens and you want to defer your decision, your remedy decision, until after you've left, then you can do that on the understanding that at the point of discharge, your pension benefits will be based on your legacy pension benefits. So if you've had your RSS and you have a look at it and you think, well, actually, I'm still not sure what I want to do. I need some more time to consider it. You might want to go and consult an independent financial advisor, come and consult us, get some more answers. Then you tick this box here, but you need to understand that it's going to be on legacy terms if you do that. Furthermore, if you do decide to tick this box and defer your decision, you have to make that decision within 6 months of receiving the RSS or the issue date that will be on the RSS. If you don't, then you will automatically continue receiving your legacy pension benefits as default, and that will remain the case, and it will be deemed that you've made your remedy election choice by not making your remedy choice on the Pen Form 1 and then just leaving it for 6 months. So if you do tick this box because you want to defer your decision, then remember that you've done that and set a clock for 4 or 5 months down the line for when you really need to make your decision. And obviously, if you're in scope for remedy and you've not received the RSS and you're doing your Pen Form 1 now, again, you will go out on legacy pension benefits. When your RSS does arrive, and that might be after your discharge or very shortly before it, then you'll need to do another Pen Form 1 to make your remedy election decision, okay? Even if you've left after, even if the RSS arrives after you've left. And box D here is the perfect scenario, really, if you fit into this, and it says, I'm in scope for the 2015 remedy, I've received my RSS, and I'm ready to make my election decision. So you would tick this box and then go on to the relevant parts, and you can see where they are here. And I'll go through those one by one. Okay, so the first one here, I'm not covering the first part where it says I'm not entitled to the remedy because you'll go on to part D. But if you've got an ill health pension benefit payable to you, perhaps it's a tier 1 and you think, well, actually, I really should be getting a tier 2, and you're appealing that, then you need to tick this box here and say I'm in scope for the remedy and I'm currently appealing my ill health tier decision. Okay, so you tick that and then go on to the next section. Now there's another box on this page here which says, I am choosing to make my election before my appeal or complaint is concluded. I understand my election cannot be changed if my tier award is amended. Now you don't have to tick this box, and it would be my personal recommendation not to do so. Let's imagine if you get a tier 1 level discharge and you think, well, I want to go with my legacy pension benefits because everybody else says they're the more favourable, etc., etc. And you tick that box and then you go on to make your election on the next couple of slides or pages, you can't revisit that. And it might be the case that your tier appeal is upheld and you're then given a tier 2 or a tier 3, at which point your remedy election might have been different with those new sets of figures given to you. So if you're going to appeal, I would tick this one, but not this one. Okay. This part here, part C2, is for those who have not yet received the RSS or you want to defer your decision until a later point. Like I said, you have to do that within 6 months of receiving that RSS or the issue date of the RSS. If you don't, it will automatically defer to legacy and that will be it for life. So if you've not received it or you want to defer your decision, tick this, sign and date, and then move on to the next part, which is part D. Now, for those of you who have received the RSS and you're happy with whatever decision you want to make and you know what you want to do, you will have either the choice of taking legacy pension scheme benefits for the remedy period or taking AFPS 15 benefits for the remedy period. So you would tick one of these boxes, sign and date, and then move on to the next section. Now, if you should all be members of the FPS in this audience, if you do receive your RSS, and you want some assistance with getting a better understanding of how the figures work at discharge, later in life, and at state pension age, etc., then please submit that to us and we'll provide a full explanation of it, which should hopefully assist with your understanding of how the figures work and also with your decision making. We have had people who've called us up as members and said, I'm happy with my decision, I just want legacy pension benefits, without us seeing the RSS. And we always urge people to send it in, and in some cases those people have gone on to have made a decision that they don't want to do, and it's impossible or almost impossible to reverse those decisions once you've made them. That is completely down to the discretion of Veterans UK, the pension scheme administrator, and in most cases they won't reverse the decisions that you have made. So be really conscious about what you're doing on here, and if you need assistance, then call us. Okay, so part D, which is the next section we have to move on to, is you're going to be choosing which pension scheme you're a member of. Now, everybody in the armed forces is currently a member of the 15 scheme, but of course, when you first joined up, you may well have been a member of a legacy scheme, either the 05 or the 75 if you're in regular service, or FTRS 97, NRPS, RFPS 05 if you've been FTRS since 2005, etc. So you'll need to identify which of these categories you fit into. So for example, if you joined in 2004 perhaps, and you're leaving in the next few months, and you're now on the 15, and you used to be on 75, then you would tick this one at the top, AFPS 15 with 75 accrued rights. Similarly, if you were on 05 when you first joined, AFPS 15 with 05 accrued rights, and so on. And then once you've ticked that box, you then go on to complete the necessary parts relevant to you, which are detailed here. On JPA, of course, this will just happen automatically, and it will take you on to the next part that's relevant to you once you've ticked this box. On JPA, this is sort of a drop-down list, and this is where on JPA, if you're not entitled to immediate benefits, in the drop-down list, you'll have these options here, or words that very similar to this effect. Then the bottom one will be, I'm not entitled to immediate benefits, and that's where you select that option. Okay, so part E, this is for someone who is a member of the 15 scheme now, but used to be a member of the 75 scheme. And this is asking you whether or not you want to commute part of your pension, your 75 pension. Now, commutation, if you don't already know, is whereby you can increase the tax-free lump sum at the point of discharge on the understanding that your pension is then reduced from the point of discharge up until you're 55 years of age. This option is not available to you if you're leaving at 55, clearly. And also it's not available if you're leaving under a medical discharge. It's only under a regular discharge if you're under 55 years of age. It's basically you're taking out a tax-free loan at discharge and then paying it off for the period from discharge up until you're 55, and then it goes back up to the full rate. And hopefully as members you've all got a bit of an understanding of that by the time you come to tick this box. So if you do want to do this option, you tick yes, and then you have the option of taking the maximum amount allowed or an amount specified by you up to the maximum. So if you get your RSS or your forecast and you see, well, the available additional lump sum is £20,000, but actually I don't want that much, I just want 15, then you need to enter that amount in here. If you tick the maximum amount allowed, then it will be the maximum amount that you're given, clearly. And of course, if you don't want to do that, you tick no and then move on to part H. Now, this section here is for someone who is in the 15 scheme but used to be on the 05 scheme. And this part here is asking you what you want to do with your 05 scheme pension. Now, this part needs to be filled out, but it's especially relevant for people who are 55 years of age at the point of discharge on the 05 scheme and are going to be getting their immediate 05 pension rather than 05 EDP, which is what you get if you hadn't reached 55. So it's asking you here if you want to apply for inverse commutation. Now, this is the opposite to resettlement commutation that I just went into. What this does, it means that you can surrender some or all of your 05 pension lump sum in return for an increased taxable pension. So if you want to do that, I really recommend getting some better understanding of your tax position for a start if you're going into further employment, and whether or not you need that tax-free lump sum at the point of discharge. But if you're happy with your decision, then you either tick yes or no. Now, what happens is with inverse commutation is you give up an amount of the lump sum that you're awarded in multiples of £100, from anywhere from £100 up to the maximum lump sum, in order to increase your taxable annual pension. So you'll need to get some guidance on that and find out whether or not you want to do it. And we can tell you how, if you give up X amount of pounds of your lump sum, how much that would generate in terms of annual pension. So once you've got that guidance, then you can come back here and fill out the figures, knowing full well what it actually means. Now, this section here is asking you if you want to allocate a portion of your pension to a dependent who is financially dependent on you. Now, there's some quite strict rules around this. You can't just give it to anybody that you fancy. What happens is an assessment is made if you tick this box and then go on to fill out the Form 3, which is it explains there. And the pension scheme administrator will make a decision about whether or not you can do this. Now, normally it's the case that it would be given to, perhaps if you've got a child who's physically or mentally disabled and is unable to go on and get work at any time in their life, who's going to be financially dependent on you for life. That would be an example of where you can allocate a portion of your 0-5 pension to them. Now, at the point of discharge, your pension, of course, will be reduced with that allocation in mind. If that dependent that you've allocated it to then predeceases you, then your pension is never restored to its full rate. So again, if you're thinking about doing this and you're eligible to do it, then please come and get some further guidance from us so we can explain the full implications of it. Okay, this is this section here, Part G, is applicable for people who are members of the RFPS 05. So that would be if you've been in full-time reserve service from 2005. And this RFPS 05 works in very much the same way as the AFPS 05, insofar as you can opt for inverse commutation. Give up some of your lump sum or all of it in order to increase your RFPS 05 pension. And this, of course, is only available if you're leaving with your RFPS 05 pension in payment. So same details there as the 05 pension. Okay, so Part H now, and all of you will have to fill out this part of the form, unless you're not getting immediate pension benefits, of course, because we're all members of the 15 scheme now. So the first part of this section here says, I want to inversely commute my full EDP lump sum. Now, if you're leaving after completing 20 years of service and you're 40 years of age at the point of discharge, you'll get an EDP package from the 15 scheme. As long as you're not 60, of course, and getting your immediate pension. But if you're leaving with EDP, you'll get an EDP lump sum. Now, what you can do is you can inversely commute that EDP lump sum. And with this decision on the 15 scheme EDP, that decision is binary. You either give up the whole EDP lump sum or you keep all of it. You can't give up a portion of it like you can with the 05 pension lump sum. And what it does is it means that you surrender your full EDP lump sum in its entirety, and then your annual taxable income from your 15 EDP is increased. So it's, generally speaking, a less favourable method of arranging your tax liability when you leave service. Now you can see here on the PDF form, there's a yes and a no box. So you will need to tick whichever one is appropriate to you, whatever your choice is. Now on JPA, you don't have a yes and a no box, you simply have a yes box. So if you don't want to give up your 15 scheme EDP lump sum at discharge, then stay away from that box and leave it blank completely. If you want to give it up, please come and get some guidance from us about what that actually means. And it will depend on whether or not you're going into further employment, things like that, and what your marginal tax rate will be. But we'll be able to assist you with that decision. But don't make it blind, please. And please don't tick that box on JPA if you don't want to do it. Now, the next part of this page here is about if you're leaving with your 15 scheme pension in payment, not EDP. Nonetheless, if you're leaving with just the EDP, then you'll just simply need to tick no to all these boxes. Now, with the 15 scheme pension, if you're getting that at the point of discharge, what you can do is you can postpone it until a later date. And if you were to postpone it, and then receive it at a later date, what happens is they apply a late payment supplement to it. And again, if you come to us and you're thinking about doing this with you're having your 15 scheme pension at the point of discharge, and you want to delay it to increase the value of it, then please come to us and we'll try and give you some assistance with how that works. So you would either tick yes or no and then put the date in there that you wish to actually start receiving it. Now this box here, if you're leaving and you're over 55 but younger than 60, then please pay attention to this part of the form if you don't listen to any of the rest of what I'm saying. It says, I am between age 55 and 60 and wish to receive an early immediate pension, actuarially reduced, and I understand this will be payable from the day after my service has ended. If you're 55 years of age and you're leaving with a 15 scheme EDP, you'll get that. But what you can actually do is apply for early payment of your 15 scheme pension to run concurrently with your EDP. But what happens is, if you take your pension at 55 at discharge, it will be reduced to account for the longer period of time it would be in payment for, compared to if you took it at state pension age, which is the normal situation. What a lot of people do, not a lot, but some, read this and go, I'm between age 55 and 60, and then they put a full stop there, and then they go and tick this box. And it has really profound implications of doing that. Because what it means is, well, A, you probably won't know what you've done, and you then won't go on to claim the lump sum, which I'll go on to in the next slide. And your pension that you would normally get at 67 or 68 will be almost halved, and it will stay halved for the rest of your life. It won't go back up at state pension age. And your EDP that you're getting alongside the reduced pension will also stop at state pension age, so you'll take a big dip in income at that point. So please don't tick this box if you want to keep your pension deferred until state pension age. If you want to take it early and you know exactly what the implications of that are, then by all means tick that box. And again, you can allocate a portion of your 15 scheme pension, and the same rules and thinking applies as with the 05 pension that I've already explained. Okay, so if you are 60 years of age at the point of discharge and you are going to be receiving your 15 scheme pension, or if you're 55 and you want to take it early, then you have the option of commutation on the 15 scheme pension. What this does is mean it has a similar effect to the 75 scheme commutation, but there are some differences. So the 15 scheme doesn't provide a tax-free lump sum when it comes into payment, but what you can do is give up some of your annual pension in order to create a tax-free lump sum when it comes into payment. So what you need to do is understand the implications of that. The first being that when the pension is reduced, it stays reduced for the rest of your life. Okay, so the longer you live, essentially you might start losing out on the overall value. But come to us if you want some guidance on that and you're in that position. So what you can do is you want to raise a tax-free lump sum at the age of discharge, yes or no, and then you can choose either the maximum allowed or the following amount in multiples of 100, and then you would put in there the lump sum that you actually want to get. And there are some limits on that. We don't have time to go into every connotation of how this works, but you're all members, so please come to us if you're considering doing this. Now, if you're leaving and you're not 60 and you're not getting your 15 scheme pension at discharge, then it doesn't really matter what you put in here, because this decision about commutation of your 15 scheme pension will be made at state pension age when you apply for your 15 scheme pension, and you'll need to do that approximately 3 months before you reach state pension age. You won't forget, because you certainly won't forget if you're in receipt of a 15 scheme EDP, because that will suddenly stop at state pension age, and then that will give you the reminder that you need to claim your pension. But if you're not getting EDP and you're leaving with just a preserved pension, you can tick yes or no here. It won't make any difference. You'll need to make this decision at state pension age. Okay, part J is asking you if you want to reinvest your tax-free lump sum into another pension scheme. I'm going to keep this very brief. If you want to do that, then you need to go and get financial advice, because we can't provide financial advice. We're not financial advisors, but you'll need to get some because there will be tax implications. If you don't want to reinvest it, then tick no to all 3 of these boxes on the PDF form, or just the one box that's on JPA. Now this section here is asking you if you have any other pensions in payment immediately on leaving the armed forces or due to be paid in the future. This is not pensions that you're going to get from your next job or the state pension or anything like that. These are pensions that you've perhaps built up whilst you've been in service through another job or a private pension arrangement, or from jobs that you've had before you joined the armed forces. If you have got any of those, then you'll need to go to that pension scheme administrator and get the necessary details from them and put them on this form. It's to assess whether or not you're going to have a tax liability. Of course, most people don't have this, so if that doesn't fit, if you've never had another pension scheme, then just tick no. If you have, then tick yes and find the necessary details and put them in there. Okay, Part L and Part M are to do with the lump sum allowance and lifetime allowance. Now, for the vast majority of service leavers, these won't apply. But Part L is asking you if you've requested a transitional tax-free amount certificate from another pension scheme, and then you're confirming whether or not you've sent that certificate in. This is to do with the lump sum allowance, and it doesn't affect very many people in the armed forces, only those with a very large pension. And for this transitional tax-free amount certificate, this would only apply if you've had a pension commencement lump sum previously. So if you've never had another pension come into payment, then you can simply tick no to these. And if you've never heard of this, then it's probably the case that you don't need to do it. But if you need assistance with understanding this a bit better, then please come to us. Now, Part M is asking you if you've obtained individual enhanced primary or fixed protection. Again, if you've never heard of this, then it's likely to be the case that you're not affected by it. This is for people who exceeded the lifetime allowance some time ago, and they could protect that allowance against the new lifetime allowance rates that were brought in subsequently. It's for people with quite large pension pots. So for the vast majority of service leavers won't be affected, but if you are, and you've got previous protection, then you need to make sure that a copy of that certificate is sent to Veterans UK. Pardon me. Okay, Part N, this is really important to get this right as well. Now, on the PDF form, clearly you'll need to manually enter these. On JPA, they're automatically populated to pay your pension benefits into the bank account or building society account that you currently get your military salary. But please make sure you check it line by line on JPA and make sure you enter it correctly here. I did have one member who was on the phone and he suddenly realized that he had his wages split into two accounts for some reason, and part of his military salary, when he was in service, part of his salary went to his ex-spouse. And when JPA automatically populated his bank account details on this form, it came up with his ex-spouse's bank details. So please check it. Okay, those are repeated. Right, that's it. That's the that's how you fill out the Pen Form 1. Now, like I said, I expect all of you to be members. Now, please, if you missed anything on that, clearly we're going to go to some questions now. But if you're a member, then please call our inquiry service, which is here, and where the pension consultants man these phones every afternoon, Monday to Friday, between 1300 hours to 1600 hours. And if you want us to literally hold your hand and go through that Pen Form 1 with you over the phone, then we can do that. And it's something that is really, really important to get right. We see it time and time again when people have tried doing this on their own. They don't fully understand what they're doing. They can make mistakes. And the two most common ones are the 15 scheme EDP, inverse commutation, and then some people go on to tick that other box, I'm between 55 and 60. And in both circumstances, there's profound implications. Similarly, the 75 resettlement commutation, if you want that lump sum, then you've got to tick the boxes to get it. Okay, well, that concludes everything. But we'll go to questions now. Richard, have you got anything outstanding that you haven't
No,
got to?
Andy, top stuff. No, I haven't got anything outstanding. Been quite active actually, and some very good questions that come through for the benefits of the rest of the audience as well. But just to reiterate what Andy said, you're all members, so I know there's a med discharge question that you need to pose into us out there, one of the viewees, but just get in touch with us. That's what we're here for, to assist you when you're doing this. Just got one coming from Martin Hodgson. I'm 53 ET this week. Signed on to 55, no RSS. I wouldn't, Martin. You will not get your RSS until, you know, on paper 9 months before you're due to leave. But that's when the process has been ironed out and resolved. There are people who are leaving in February next year who are getting their RSSs. So please do not worry about your RSS at this moment in time. Is it worth commuting on 15? I only have 2 years left to 55. We can answer that question when you see your RSS.
Well, yeah, but that option won't.
It won't be relevant to you until
Martin,
you leave.
Do you mean you're leaving this week, or you're submitting your early termination?
Submitting it.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, when you leave, you won't have the option to commute on your 15 scheme, because if you leave at 53, 54, 55, your 15 scheme pension will be deferred till state pension age. You'll need to make that commutation option when you apply for that deferred pension, unless you're claiming it early, of course.
No.
Okay.
We've got a question from Reverend Edward there. Yes, we are keeping an eye, but until the budget comes, Edward, then nobody knows what's going to happen at this moment in time. There's far too many rumours going on in the press. I think the press are very happy to print all options that could happen, so everybody automatically assumes that all options will happen. But when we get the details, we will update the details on our website to let people know what the implications might be. But until then, there really is no point in even think about any rumours that go along with it, of which there are many, many rumours.
Anyone else got any questions? No? Okay. Richard, are you happy to close?
Yep, super. I will stop recording now. There will be a copy of this. Thank you. It's a pleasure, and thank you to Andy, obviously, for.
Yeah, thanks very much for listening. You can follow us on social media there.